Welcome back to the deep dive. So, this week we found ourselves staring at this stack of source material that was just all over the place.
It really was.
We had fragmented political blogs, really intense media reviews, some deep social commentary, and then this rapid-fire news quiz. It was a mess, but honestly, it kind of reflected the moment perfectly.
It absolutely felt like a symptom of just, total information overload. So
Yeah.
our mission today is to try and synthesize some of this chaos to turn what feels like a collective cultural shiver into some coherent insights.
And there was one phrase that just kept coming up.
Oh, yeah. Across all the sources, it was the United States of whatever. That was the vibe. We are truly navigating a bizarro timeline.
That concept, that cultural apathy, the whatever state, it was perfectly captured in the very first story we looked at. I mean, the tragic discussion around the woman who was fatally shot by a federal immigration agent up in Minneapolis.
Yeah, what stood out immediately was the complete absence of a measured adult political response.
Right.
Instead of, calling for an investigation or just expressing some basic sobriety, certain elected officials just rushed to judgment. They were immediately labeling the deceased a deranged leftist who weaponized her car.
And that's where it connects to that whatever feeling.
Yeah.
The hosts of one source just observed that the whole political and media ecosystem seemed to just shrug.
Yeah.
It just confirmed this chilling reality that nobody cares. That immediate jump to character assassination instead of, waiting for the facts.
Yeah.
It suggests the performance is way more valuable than what actually happened.
It's a mechanism,
Yeah.
and it's one we really need to unpack.
Okay, so let's unpack that. Let's talk about this political performance because the source material had this incredible explanation for why things feel so disconnected from reality. It uses a concept from professional wrestling, of all places, to define the current strategy.
This is really the intellectual anchor of the whole deep dive, kayfabe. It's a fantastic term. It captures that collective sense of suspended belief that the audience agrees to engage in for the sake of the show.
So the wrestling is staged.
Exactly. You know it's staged. You know the villains are probably best buddies backstage. But you agree to believe in the manufactured drama. You buy in.
That is a perfect fit for right now. And the insight, which we should credit to Blind Boy from the Irish hip-hop group The Rubber Bandits, argues that politics has basically adopted kayfabe.
To make citizens surrender to the absurdity, yeah.
So how does that work?
Well, the argument is that this style of politics doesn't rely on the traditional model of fascism, which requires solemnity, that rigid performance of seriousness.
The kind of thing Charlie Chaplin so famously exposed in The Great Dictator?
Precisely. If you introduce humor into a solemn space, the whole thing just falls apart.
But what if the performance starts with the absurdity? If it starts with the joke, how does a critic even fight back?
It becomes so much harder. This modern political performance uses humor, uses memes, the absurd, to preemptively mock any potential critic. We saw examples of this in the sources.
Oh, the ASMR thing.
Yeah, the ASMR thing. Seemingly serious government actions, like deporting people to Venezuela, being accompanied by official accounts posting these comedy videos labeled as ASMR.
ASMR, Autonomous Sensory Meridian Response. I mean, that's supposed to be relaxing sounds, and it's being associated with deportations. That is just deeply bizarre.
It's designed to be. It forces the audience to engage in a kayfabe where the leader is kind of laughing with them, suggesting, hey, this is all just a joke, don't take it so seriously. But the actions themselves, they're absolutely real.
And we saw this exact mechanism at work in the aftermath of the ICE shooting.
We did. Those defending the officer, for example, releasing video to, quote, sully her character as a sassy lesbian woman. They weren't performing to win over the political center.
No, not at all.
They were performing for themselves, reinforcing the inner show for the audience that has already bought in.
So if that's the performance, treating law enforcement like some chaotic joke, it really raises a crucial question about what the actual legal standard is, because the sources brought up a very sober counterpoint.
They did, yeah. It was a Supreme Court case, Barnes versus Felix, from 2025. This was a landmark unanimous decision on excessive force claims. And it soundly rejected what was known as the moment of threat doctrine.
Okay, so for listeners who might not follow the Fourth Amendment that closely, what does rejecting the moment of threat doctrine, what does that actually mean?
It's a huge distinction.
Yeah.
The moment of threat doctrine basically suggested that if an officer perceives any threat, no matter how brief, at the exact moment force is used, their actions are
A
justified.
very narrow window.
Very narrow. But Barnes versus Felix reaffirmed the long-standing standard of the totality of the circumstances.
And the difference in application there is just massive.
It is. The totality standard forces a court to look at the full picture. It's not just about the split second the trigger was pulled. It forces judges and juries to ask, what happened leading up to that moment? Did the officer follow their training?
Did their own actions actually create the necessity for force?
Exactly. It maintains a high, nuanced legal standard for accountability, which is, a sharp contrast with the whatever attitude we were just talking about.
And speaking of training, there was a little policy nugget in there that connects right back to the ICE officer in Minneapolis. The source material had this astonishing detail that park rangers actually had more training than the federal ICE officers involved in this kind of action.
That gap between preparation and authority is, well, it's concerning. It speaks volumes about which federal roles are prioritized for intensive preparation.
Okay, let's pivot now from manufactured political reality to manufactured media reality. The deep dive had this extensive review of recent entertainment, and it was mostly looking for authenticity and, well, often finding frustration. Is it the same struggle, this believable performance idea driving the critique in pop culture?
Absolutely. The sources gave some fascinating context on comedy legends who built entire careers on genuine performance. Like, take Albert Brooks. We learned his real name's Albert Einstein, and his brother was the legendary Super Dave Osborne Bob Einstein.
Wow.
And there's this story of his father dying at the Friars Club while a singer was on stage performing There's No Tomorrow. It's just pure show business irony.
It sounds like a comedy sketch Brooks himself would write. And then there's Eddie Murphy, described as a gigantic superstar phenom.
The observation was that he broke this very real, unspoken rule in entertainment, that there could only be one black star at a time. He just shattered that ceiling.
We got that powerful story about his influence, too.
Oh, yeah. How his special, Delirious, gave this point of connection and relief to a young Pete Davidson. His mom took him to buy it right after his father died on 9/11. And that just shows the transformative power of authentic talent and humor.
It really does. But then when the hosts looked at new media, the critique wasn't really about talent. It was about the fundamental structure of the performance. This frustration over age casting came up again and again.
This was the recurring theme of inauthenticity. It popped up in reviews of shows like Is This Thing On? With Will Arnett and Laura Dern.
And nobody wants this with Adam Brody and Kristen Bell.
Right. And the core complaint was that the actors, who are great, were just too old for the roles.
So you mean seeing characters who are finding first love in their late 40s or 50s, or playing people with, like, 10-year-old twins when the actors are clearly older, why does that break the authenticity so much?
Because it pulls you right out of the kayfabe. It pulls you out of that suspended belief the show is asking for. If the reality they're presenting is just fundamentally unbelievable, the audience disengages.
It's why they praised a show like Mad Men, right?
Exactly, because it did the opposite. It acknowledged and used the real charisma and, handsomeness of leads like John Hamm and January Jones as part of the story. The performance matched the reality.
That consistency is key. Okay, shifting to reality TV, which is often the ultimate stage for manufactured performance. The host did a deep dive on The Traitors.
That show is a perfect microcosm of this whole performance problem. You have the faithfuls trying to identify the traitors to win a cash prize, and it all relies on acting in deceit.
And the observation was the U.S. version suffers because it's mostly celebrities and Real Housewives who are consciously acting it up.
And giving a really poor performance because of it.
I wonder if that's a choice, though. Maybe the producers want that manufactured drama that celebrities who are already playing characters can provide.
Maybe, but the sources argued the British version, which uses regular non-celebrity people, is just superior. And it's superior precisely because they can't act well. Their inability to flawlessly perform deceit makes the suspicion, the paranoia, and then the big reveals feel so much more genuine and therefore more compelling. The imperfection creates the authenticity.
The ultimate irony bad acting makes for better reality TV. Before we move on, one random fact nugget the hosts shared that stuck with me.
What's that?
The New York baseball team, the Mets, is short for Metropolitans.
A good bit of trivia to take away.
It is.
All right, let's dedicate a moment to that news quiz section, because these weren't just trivia questions. They distilled some significant factual policy shifts that, I think everyone needs to be aware of. We need to convert these bullet points into a real understanding of what's changing.
Let's start with military control. What was the most alarming takeaway regarding the chain of command?
The revelation that Defense Secretary Pete threatened Senator Mark Kelly, a decorated astronaut and fighter pilot, with a demotion in military rank.
And this was over a video Kelly made, right?
Yeah, a video reminding service members of their right to refuse illegal orders from higher-ups.
That is a stark message to be sending, and the context here is important. This threat was tied directly to the unilateral U.S. action against Venezuela and the capture of President Maduro.
Which implies there was internal dissent about the legality of those operations.
Right. It signals a potential political environment where just questioning the legality of an order could lead to retaliation. That has to chill any kind of internal ethical debate within the military.
It does. Okay, second, let's talk about the dramatic shift in public media funding.
This was a big one.
The Corporation for Public Broadcasting, which is the primary funding source for NPR and PBS, voted to dissolve.
And that's because it lost over $1 billion in federal funding in 2025.
Yes. It's an immediate, critical challenge to non-commercial media funding in the U.S. There's no other way to put it.
And finally, a significant change in public health policy from the CDC about childhood vaccinations.
The CDC curtailed its list of required childhood vaccinations. So while the key ones like measles, mumps, polio, chickenpox, they're still required.
Okay.
Others, specifically hepatitis B, meningitis, and the COVID-19 vaccine, will now be left up to parental discretion.
That sounds like a political compromise, but what was the immediate policy concern the sources raised about this change?
The concern wasn't just about the mandates, it was about insurance coverage. The immediate question is, will insurance providers stop covering these vaccines once they are no longer designated as nationally required?
Which would create huge access and cost barriers for parents who still want them.
Exactly.
So after all that, what does this all mean for you, the listener?
We've covered the political use of kayfabe, this idea of using absurdity to generate apathy and preempt criticism. We've talked about the constant struggle for authenticity versus manufactured performance in TV, and then these critical shifts in military control and public funding.
It's a snapshot of a highly chaotic and highly performative time. But, you know, amidst all the chaos, we did find genuine human stories like the history of Albert Brooks or the mentorship of Eddie Murphy.
And on the lightest of notes, the introduction of the host's new 2-year-old rescue pug,
Lulu.
The sources made sure to confirm she has back legs that are working.
Yeah.
Which is just a much-needed moment of grounded, happy reality in the middle of all this analysis of our bizarro timeline.
It really was. Okay, so for a final provocative thought for you to chew on. If we've analyzed how the political performance of absurdity kayfabe is designed to make you laugh and just disengage from reality.
Consider the vast array of media we consume.
You're thinking about all the reruns and reboots the hosts mentioned, like the rumored Scrubs reboot or Survivor hitting season 50.
Exactly. Are these constant reruns and manufactured conflicts like celebrity reality shows that thrive on bad acting? Are they also performing a type of entertainment kayfabe? Are they keeping us perpetually entertained, but at the same time preventing us from demanding fresh ideas or real engagement with the world outside the screen?
One of the hosts learned a new phrase this week, JOMO, the joy of missing out.
So is embracing JOMO an act of rebellion against this relentless performance machine? Or is it just another way of surrendering to the United States of whatever?
Something to ponder next time you choose to tune in or tune out. Thanks for joining us for the deep dive this week.
We'll be here next time, ready to synthesize whatever insights we can find in the noise.